welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really unearthing centuries of Philippine art history. And it's so much more than just, paintings and sculptures we might think of initially. It's really a living, breathing record of a nation's soul, its resilience, and honestly, its breathtaking creativity.
It really is.
This feels like a journey right through the heart of the Philippines, told through its art.
That's a great way to put it. And what truly resonates, I think, is how the art directly mirrors the incredible resilience and, the evolution of the Filipino people themselves.
Yeah.
We're talking about tracing a clear lineage, from ancient crafts, things made for daily life, right up to modern masterpieces shown in galleries.
Wow.
Our mission today really is to distill the most important nuggets from this great collection of comprehensive notes. We have historical texts, resources from places like the National Museum of the Philippines.
Okay.
And bring you those aha moments to show you exactly why this rich history is so fundamental to understanding the Philippines as it is today.
And what an expansive journey it looks like it's going to be. We're starting way back, right?
Yeah.
Delving into the practical artistry of the pre-colonial era, which is fascinating in itself.
Absolutely.
Then we'll navigate through the profound changes brought by the Spanish Colonial Period, exploring how art was kind of repurposed, given new messages.
A huge shift.
Exactly. From there, we'll examine the evolving influences during the American colonial period, and then finally, really immerse ourselves in the vibrant, often revolutionary, modern and contemporary periods.
Yeah, a lot going on there.
Each era brought its own distinct shifts in influence, in medium. Even the purpose of art changed, didn't it? It really paints this remarkable tapestry of time and talent.
It really does. A complex tapestry.
So let's dive right into the very beginnings, the pre-colonial period. When we talk about art from this era, we're not just looking at decorative objects, are we?
Not at all, no.
We're really talking about functional items that were also somehow imbued with incredible beauty and deep, often spiritual meaning.
That's precisely it.
These weren't simply pretty things. They were essential parts of daily life, integral to spiritual practices, foundational to community identity. What strikes me is how seamlessly function and artistry were just woven together.
That's the key, I think. If we consider ceramics, for instance, they represent one of the earliest, probably most widespread forms of artistic expression and utility.
Right. Basic necessity almost.
Exactly. And our sources highlight that the definition itself is quite simple. Any product obtained through the action of fire upon any material. Basic chemistry, really.
Okay.
Yet the complexity and the profound significance of what early Filipinos created from clay, it's just astonishing. You have to think about the intuitive understanding of materials they must have had, the control of fire, the sheer ingenuity required to transform earth into durable, beautiful, and meaningful objects without any modern technology.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It really speaks to a deep ancestral knowledge passed down through generations.
And maybe the absolute pinnacle, or at least the most famous example of this early ceramic art, has to be the Tabun Caves funerary vessel from Palawan, right?
Oh, absolutely iconic.
Because this wasn't just a pot or a simple container for remains. It was a deeply spiritual object, discovered with these intricate incised designs around its body. But what truly makes it stand out, what makes you pause, is the lid.
The lid, yes.
On that cover, you see a boat containing two human figures, one at the front, maybe representing the soul,
right,
and another behind, steering, representing the boatman, the guide.
It's a pump figure, yeah.
This isn't just decoration. It's such a powerful, tangible symbol of the prehistoric Filipinos' sophisticated belief in a journey to the afterlife.
It really is.
It tells us they had a very specific, nuanced understanding of death and that transition beyond. It transforms a vessel into a spiritual guide, a visual map of their beliefs about life and death.
Absolutely. It's a profound statement that just challenges any simplistic notions we might have about ancient cultures. And that understanding, that blend of function with deep meaning, it extends far beyond funerary rituals into everyday life.
Right.
Ceramics were incredibly diverse in their daily use across the archipelago. They really showcase regional adaptations and purposes.
Like how?
Well, for example, up in the Ilocos region of northern Luzon, the native term for large earthenware is burnay. These were primarily used for fermenting basi, which is a local sugarcane wine, or sometimes for storing water and salt, essential stuff. Then, if you move south to the Tagalog regions, you find the tapayan. It's a similar large jar, but more specifically used for water storage.
It's a similar form, slightly different primary use and name.
Exactly. These regional variations in terminology and purpose, they just underscore how deeply integrated ceramics were into the fabric of everyday life, tailored to specific needs, local customs, often passed down through generations of potters in that community.
And we can't overlook the more common, maybe less spectacular, but equally significant pieces like the palliok, right? Which was just ubiquitous as cookware.
Oh, absolutely. The everyday cooking pot.
Imagine the countless meals prepared in those. The families gathered around food made in these pots. They're infused with warmth and communal history.
Definitely.
And the banga, a smaller, often maybe more elegant vessel, used specifically for drinking water storage.
Right. Keeping water cool.
Again, functionality blended seamlessly with craft. These weren't just plain vessels. They often had subtle artistry in their form or finishing, maybe a smooth rim or a unique curve, something that showed the potter's hand.
A little bit of pride in the work, yeah.
Speaking of regional distinctiveness in ceramics, we also find the vegan tiles.
Ah, yes, the terracotta tiles.
Distinctive red, high-polished terracotta tiles, noted for their unique aesthetic and, of course, their association with the historic Spanish colonial city of Vigan.
Right, often seen on the ground floors of those old houses.
They speak to an early sense of regional identity and craftsmanship expressed through material culture. And you can still see them gracing floors and walls in historic Vigan homes today. They're really durable.
Very durable. Moving from the earth to fibers, weaving tells another incredible story of pre-colonial artistry. It's deeply rooted in culture and identity. And like ceramics, it's not just about making fabric or functional items. It's about telling stories, reflecting social structures, even embodying philosophical ideas about connection and community.
How so?
Well, the very concept of weaving, as the sources put it, can be as simple as a hand-woven mat for sleeping and sitting, but that dual purpose of utility and artistic expression is key. Every thread, every color, every pattern often had a specific meaning, a cultural code embedded right there within the design. It wasn't random.
A visual language.
Precisely, a visual language.
And there are so many distinct examples that highlight this intricate artistry. The banig, of course, is the quintessential hand-woven mat.
Everyone knows the banig.
Used everywhere, culturally important for sleeping, sitting, sometimes even as temporary walls. Imagine every household having one, maybe lovingly made, passed down through generations, each one a testament to patient skill.
Hours and hours of work.
Then you have the malong, that's a versatile, large, rectangular, or tube-like Mawidanaw garment, right?
Yes, the tube skirt.
Emphasizing its vibrant appearance, usually in a technique called ikat. It's not just clothing, it's a statement. Often worn in ceremonies as everyday attire, or even used as a blanket, a baby carrier, a temporary shelter.
Incredibly versatile.
Its versatility just speaks volumes about its centrality to Maguindanao life.
And that ikat technique is particularly fascinating. It showcases a truly advanced level of textile artistry.
How does ikat work again?
Well, the tinalak, for instance, is identified as Toboli tie-dye. It's associated with the Toboli ethnic group and has this unique visual style, often featuring abstract patterns inspired by nature or even by dreams. The weavers are sometimes called dream weavers. What makes ikat so sophisticated, as described in the sources, is that it's a style of weaving that uses a resist-dyeing process similar to tie-dye on either the warp or the weft before the threads are woven.
Before weaving?
Yes, before they are woven. This means the patterns are dyed onto the individual threads before they are even put on the loom.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It requires immense planning, precision, and almost mathematical understanding of how colors and patterns will align in the final piece. It's a testament to the incredible technical skill, the foresight, and the artistic vision of these indigenous weavers. It turns each piece into a real labor of love, a complex visual narrative.
From textiles, we naturally shift to another form of everyday utility that also showcased incredible artistic skill: basketry. It's easy, I think, to dismiss baskets as simple containers.
Yeah, just something to carry things in.
But in pre-colonial societies, they were absolutely fundamental to survival and organization.
This raises an important question, doesn't it? How did early Filipinos organize their lives, store their food, transport their goods? Basketry provides a beautiful and ingenious answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply the process of making a basket, which is a receptacle made of interwoven materials, rattan, bamboo, reeds, whatever was available locally. But these weren't just crude containers. They were absolutely essential tools for daily living, for storage, for transport.
Right.
And they often showcase intricate patterns that spoke to the maker's skill and the community's aesthetic values, whether for carrying produce from the field, storing grains like rice, catching fish, or even for ceremonial purposes and certain rituals.
Like offering baskets.
Exactly. Baskets were indispensable and often quite beautiful, reflecting local materials and specific weaving traditions unique to that group or region. Imagine the variety: sturdy carrying baskets, finely woven storage containers, intricate fish traps, each perfectly adapted to its function.
From these practical baskets, we shift to something often more ceremonial, more symbolic: metalwork.
Right. Gold, bronze, copper.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, showing how precious materials were transformed not just into tools, but into powerful symbols of status, adornment, and ritual. This isn't just crafting. It feels like alchemy, imbued with meaning.
Indeed. Look at the Ling-Ling-O. It's described as ifugao fertility jewelry, specifically used as a necklace pendant, often resembling a stylized fetal form or an inverted U shape, sometimes with intricate designs. This isn't merely an accessory. It denotes profound cultural and spiritual significance linked to life, fertility, prosperity within the ifugao community. It's a powerful amulet.
A focus of belief.
Precisely. Then there's the gadur, identified as a morano ceremonial vessel, often made of brass or bronze, used specifically for wedding gifts.
Ah, for weddings.
Yes. This highlights its crucial role in important social rituals, often signifying alliance between families, wealth, and status within the Maranao community. The careful craftsmanship of these metal pieces, often adorned with intricate filigree or chased designs, speaks volumes about their value, both material and symbolic, making them important heirlooms passed down through families.
It's amazing how much meaning is packed into these objects. Now, what about sculpture? Pre-colonial sculpture seems incredibly rich, too.
Oh, immensely so. What's fascinating here is just the sheer variety and the spiritual depth you find. It reflects a deep connection to nature, to ancestry, to community life, and importantly, to the spiritual realm. Much of this profound expression was found in wood carvings, particularly among groups like the Ifugao, who are just masterful carvers.
The Ifugao are famous for that, right?
Absolutely. When we delve into Ifugao wood carvings, the bulul immediately comes to mind.
The rice god.
Exactly. This isn't just a statue you might see on a shelf. It's deeply revered as the Ifugao rice god, a benevolent deity, a guardian of the harvest. Its form, often stylized, usually seated, embodies the spirit of prosperity. It highlights its immense importance in agricultural rituals, in blessings for a bountiful harvest. You can almost feel the prayers and hopes for sustenance embedded in its polished, often smoke-darkened, aged wood.
Wow. So it's actively used in
Oh,
rituals.
yes. Fed, anointed. It was a living presence. Then you have the kinabigat, or sometimes called the kinabagat. This is described as the central post or king post in an ifugao house.
A structural element.
Yes, but it symbolizes the first man, the ancestor who built the house, or maybe a powerful protective spirit. Think about that. A foundational structural element that is also a sacred carving. It underscores its dual structural and symbolic significance within the very heart of the home, perhaps representing ancestral protection and the continuity of the family line.
That's incredible, integrating the sacred right into the structure of the home.
Precisely. And the hagabi is another amazing example of ifugao carving that really transcends simple furniture. This is an impressively long, often massive ifugao wooden bench, carved usually from a single narrow tree trunk. It has this distinctive, slightly arched midsection and stylized animal heads, maybe pig or carabao heads at the ends.
I've seen pictures, they're huge.
They are, and it's far more than just a place to sit. It's noted in our sources as an ultimate symbol and proof of the wealth and prestige of the owner, the Kadanyan elite.
So owning one meant you were important.
Absolutely. Imagine the immense effort and resources required to commission such a piece, not just the carving itself, which took months, but the grand feast, the uya'u, often lasting for days, that would accompany its carving and installation. This whole process elevated the status of the family who owned it. It's a literal seat of power and status within the community.
A very public display of wealth and influence.
Definitely. And we also have the binabai, which are these charming ifugao pig sculptures. They're likely related to agricultural themes or perhaps representations of pigs used in sacrifices, again reinforcing that deep connection to the land, to sustenance, and to ritual through their art.
Beyond these specific pieces, though, do we see recurring artistic patterns or motifs across different groups, something that suggests a shared cultural aesthetic?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. One really prominent example is ukil, or it's often called okir in Maranao culture.
Ukil or okir, okay.
It's explained as this elaborate leaf and vine pattern, often incorporating flowing, curvilinear lines and scroll-like designs. It's beautifully associated with both Tausug and Maranao art found in Mindanao.
So southern Philippines, predominantly?
Predominantly, yes. This stylistic continuity across different ethnic groups demonstrates a shared aesthetic language, even with regional variations. You see it beautifully executed in wood carvings, on textiles, and metalwork, particularly brassware.
What about the Saramanak? That seems iconic, too.
Oh, the Saramanak is absolutely iconic. This mythical bird, often depicted holding a fish in its beak or talons, adorned with vibrant colors and these elaborate, flowing tail feathers. It's described as a symbol of a messenger.
A messenger between worlds, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. It holds immense mythical and symbolic role, particularly prominent in Maranao art. It generally represents good fortune, nobility, power, and prestige. It's a creature of legend, often depicted with those vibrant colors and flowing lines we associate with okir, symbolizing good fortune and nobility for the Maranao people.
Okay, so that gives us a fantastic picture of the pre-colonial era, functional, deeply spiritual, regionally diverse. Now, let's fast forward. This is a huge leap, obviously, to a pivotal moment in Philippine history, the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century.
A turning point, definitely.
Here, the very purpose and function of art take on a whole new dimension, don't they? It becomes a powerful tool for, well, conversion and indoctrination.
Right.
The indigenous forms we just discussed, they didn't vanish entirely, I assume?
No, not entirely, but they certainly transformed. They were often recontextualized under this new dominant influence.
Yeah.
Sometimes suppressed, sometimes adapted.
That's a crucial observation.
Yeah.
Connecting this to the bigger picture, the colonizers very strategically used art as a tool to propagate the Catholic faith through beautiful images.
Wasn't subtle.
No, it was a deliberate, widespread effort to replace indigenous belief systems with Catholicism. This led to the introduction of images of the Holy Family and the saints, things like carved Santos figures, the Via Crucis, Way of the Cross panels. These fundamentally transformed the Filipino artistic psyche, didn't they?
Profoundly. The shift from animistic beliefs and the kind of functional art we discussed to Catholic iconography, it profoundly impacted the themes, the mediums, the styles of art produced. It led to this unique fusion, really, of European forms with Filipino sensibilities, materials, and craftsmanship.
And this era really saw the rise of notable painters. Were they mainly Spanish, or did Filipino artists emerge quickly?
Well, early on, many were Spanish or maybe Chinese artisans, but native Filipinos quickly learned and adapted these new styles. One of the earliest recorded native Filipino painters in Philippine art history was Joseph Luciano Dans. He was active from about 1805 to maybe 1870.
Okay, early 19th century.
Right. His work, Langit, Lupa at Impierno, Heaven, Earth, and Hell from around 1850, is a remarkable and incredibly vivid example of religious didactic art. Art meant to teach.
What did it look like?
It's described as a three-level painting. It dramatically illustrates the Catholic cosmos. The upper portion depicts the Holy Trinity, Mary the Mother of Christ, saints, the seven blessed sacraments, basically a vision of heavenly order and salvation.
Like the depart.
Right. But then, quite starkly, it contrasts this with a macabre depiction of hell in the lower section, complete with demons, tortures, the damned. It served as a powerful visual sermon intended to inspire piety and, frankly, fear of damnation. Very direct messaging.
Very effective, I imagine. Following Dans, who else was significant?
We encounter Damian Domingo y Gabor. He was active a bit earlier, around 1790 to 1832. He was arguably the most popular artist working in a very distinct style called tipos del país.
Tipos del país, types of the country.
Exactly. These were charming watercolor paintings designed specifically to show the different types of inhabitants in the Philippines. They meticulously illustrated their native costumes, which in turn indicated their social status and occupation. Think of it as a kind of visual ethnography or census of 19th century Philippine society, often produced for tourists or officials.
What kinds of types did he paint? paint?
Oh, all sorts. Examples mentioned include a Visayan woman in her best outfit, a laborer's outfit, even a mestiza woman in her formal wear. It really captured the diverse social fabric of the time.
And his legacy is huge, right? Not just the paintings.
Immense, because Domingo also established the first formal fine art school in the country in his house, the Academia de Dibujo y Pintura.
The first art school.
Yes. This was a truly monumental step for Philippine art education. It marked a transition from the old informal apprenticeship model to a structured academic one, laying the groundwork for future generations of Filipino artists trained in Western techniques.
And building on that Tipos del Paya style, we have Jose Honorato Lozano. He developed something really unique, didn't he? Letras y figuras.
Ah, yes, letras y figuras. Letters and figures. It's delightful. He literally developed a style that combines both tipos del pay and genre paintings by forming the letters of the patron's name from figures of people in local costumes doing everyday activities.
So my name's spelled out by tiny people.
Exactly. Your family name, for instance, might be spelled out by, say, a farmer tending his carabao forming an M, a woman weaving forming an A, maybe market vendors forming an N, and so on. It's incredibly intricate.
That's amazing. So personalized.
Very personalized. And he also ingeniously used landscape scenes as background, which added another layer of local flavor and narrative depth to the composition. It's a truly distinct, charming, and incredibly engaging art form that speaks to both artistic ingenuity and a burgeoning sense of cultural identity, even within the colonial framework.
The Spanish colonial period also saw Filipino artists achieve unprecedented international recognition, didn't it? A huge leap forward.
Yes, a pivotal moment. This fundamentally changed perceptions, both abroad and at home, of Filipino artistic capability. Juan Novicio Luna, for instance, became the first international Filipino artist to achieve such a high honor when he won a gold medal at the prestigious 1884 Madrid exposition.
Madrid Expo, right, for the Spoliarium.
Exactly. His monumental academic painting, the Spoliarium, depicting fallen gladiators being dragged from the Roman Colosseum. It was not just an artistic triumph. It became a powerful symbol of Filipino intellectual and artistic capability on the global stage. It was often interpreted back home as an allegory for the suffering of the Filipino people under Spanish colonial rule.
So it had political undertones, too.
Deep political undertones for the Filipino intellectuals in Madrid and Manila, yes.
And he wasn't alone in that momentous exhibition, was he?
No, he wasn't. Felix Resurrection Hidalgo also won a silver medal at that same 1884 Madrid exposition, with his equally powerful, though perhaps more subtly allegorical, work, Virgenes Christianas Expuestas al Populacho, Christian Virgins Exposed to the Populace.
Right.
This placed him right alongside Luna as a groundbreaking international artist, proving it wasn't a fluke, 2 Filipinos winning top prizes.
But even before Luna and Hidalgo, someone else got international recognition.
Yes, and this is important. Simon Flores holds a unique and historically significant position. He was actually the first native Filipino painter to receive an international award.
Before 1884.
Yes, his painting, La Música del Pueblo, the music of the town, which is this vibrant genre scene capturing local life, musicians playing, it won a silver medal way back at the Philadelphia Universal Exposition in 1876.
Wow, Philadelphia.
So he's often labeled as the first homegrown master painter of the Philippines. And significantly, he attended the very first art school, the Academia de Dibujo y Pintura, connecting him directly back to Damian Domingo's pioneering legacy. He represents that first generation trained locally achieving international notice.
And stylistically, during this period, there was something called miniaturismo.
Yes, miniaturismo. It wasn't a separate genre, more a stylistic tendency, especially in portraiture and sometimes religious details. It refers to a highly detailed, meticulous style showcasing incredible precision and fine brushwork. Sometimes artists incorporated tiny, almost microscopic details, perhaps in the embroidery of clothing or jewelry, that required a magnifying glass to fully appreciate. It showed off the artist's skill.
Incredible control. Now, shifting to sculpture in the Spanish period, it became absolutely central, didn't it?
Oh, completely central, particularly religious sculpture. It permeated everyday life for Filipinos, not just in the grand churches, but even in private homes, becoming objects of intense personal and communal devotion.
And the most prominent example in churches would be the retablo.
Absolutely. Often the focal point of any Catholic church, the retablo, is that elaborate, often gilded, multi-tiered structure that houses the tabernacle and the image of the town's patron saint.
Right, behind the main altar.
Exactly. It's usually referred to as a cabinet of saints because it typically features multiple niches holding various religious figures, saints, angels, scenes from the Bible. The term itself, retablo, is Mexican Spanish in origin, meaning behind the altar, indicating its central placement and function in church architecture.
Were they all made by famous artists?
Not necessarily. Many were made by local artisans, sometimes anonymous. Our sources mention the retablo in the Church of San Nicolas de Tolentino in Dimiao, Bohol, by an unknown artist. This highlights the communal and deeply devotional aspect of this art form. These weren't just commissions for fame, they were acts of faith, often carved by skilled local artisans using local woods.
And within the churches, you'd also find reliefs.
Yes, reliefs. These are carved images in relief, meaning they project out from a flat background. They usually depict the Via Crucis, the Way of the Cross, the 14 stations illustrating Christ's Passion. You'd see these lining the walls of the church, guiding the faithful through a meditative visual narrative of Christ's suffering and death. Other holy images or religious scenes could also be depicted in relief.
And, of course, the santos themselves.
Yes, the santos, simply meaning saints or holy ones. These are the individual, often exquisitely carved, religious images of saints, Christ, or the Virgin Mary. They could be made of wood, sometimes ivory for heads and hands. Think of pieces like a Pieta Mary mourning over the dead Christ, maybe by an unknown artist. Again, this demonstrates the prevalence and deep devotion associated with religious art that permeated every aspect of daily and spiritual life, from grand processional figures used in fiestas to small, intimate santos kept on home altars for private veneration.
Were there any particularly famous sculptors from this early period?
Well, identifying specific names from the very early period is challenging. But Juan de los Santos, active around 1590 to 1660, is historically significant as the earliest known sculptor in the Philippines whose name we have recorded.
Late 16th, early 17th century. Wow.
Yeah, very early. A few of his works may still be found, supposedly, at the San Agustin Convent Museum in Intramuros, Manila, providing a tangible link to this foundational period of formal sculpture in the archipelago.
And later on?
Later, Isabela Tempinco, born in November 1850, rose to real prominence. He received formal artistic training at the Escuela de Artes y Oficios in Manila. His exceptional talent was recognized internationally when his wooden sculpture, the Busto de Madera, a wooden bust from 1876, was selected to be one of the 2 entries representing the Philippines at that same Universal Exposition of Philadelphia, where Simon Flores won his medal.
So, painting and sculpture represented.
Exactly. This marked a growing professionalism and international recognition for Filipino sculptors, moving beyond just anonymous religious commissions towards recognized individual artistry. Tempinco became known for incorporating Filipino motifs, like anahaluves and bamboo, into classical European styles, creating a uniquely Filipino aesthetic, especially in architectural decoration.
And there's also a type called bastidor santos.
Yes, bastidor means frame or structure. These bastidor santos are described as mannequin sculptures. Essentially, they are wooden frames or armatures, sometimes just a head and hands attached to a conical frame.
Why make them like that?
They were designed to be dressed in real, often elaborate fabric robes and vestments. This allowed for greater realism, especially for processional images, and flexibility in dressing the saints for different religious festivals or occasions throughout the liturgical year. The focus was on the clothed figure in its splendor.
Interesting. Beyond paintings and carvings, the Spanish period also ushered in the age of printed art and literature. That must have been revolutionary.
Absolutely revolutionary. A game changer for mass communication and the widespread dissemination of religious doctrine, knowledge, and even just devotional imagery.
And the most significant example, the first printed book.
That would be La Doctrina Cristiana en la Lengua Española y Tagala, the Christian doctrine in the Spanish and Tagalog language. This wasn't just any book. It holds the distinction of being the very first book printed in the Philippines, published by the Dominicans in 1593 using xylography or woodblock printing.
1593, that's incredibly early.
It is, and what's particularly fascinating from an artistic perspective is that it featured woodcut engravings, including one of St. Dominic, attributed to Juan de Vera, who is described as a Chinese convert.
Wow, a Chinese artist.
Yes. This showcases an early and fascinating fusion of cultures. A European religious text translated into Tagalog, printed in the Philippines using a technique likely introduced by the Chinese, with illustrations by a Chinese convert, all in the service of religious propagation. These woodcuts weren't merely illustrations, they were functional art, making the religious text more visually accessible, especially to a population that might not have been fully literate.
And this printed art also included smaller, more common items.
Yes, it extended to widely distributed, much more accessible forms like estampas and estampitas. These were essentially prints of miraculous images, usually featuring portraits of saints, the Virgin Mary, or popular religious scenes.
Like little holy cards.
Exactly like holy cards or small prints. They were mass-produced using techniques like woodcut or later copperplate engraving. They could be carried as talismans, displayed in homes on altars, or pasted into prayer books. They further demonstrate the widespread dissemination of Catholic iconography through print and its profound impact on everyday faith and popular devotion across the islanders. They were the affordable, portable religious art of their time.
Okay, let's unpack this next big shift. The American Colonial Period, starting around the turn of the 20th century after the Spanish-American War.
Right. Another huge transition.
The art scene changed dramatically again, didn't it? As a new set of patrons emerged, bringing very different artistic preferences and societal values, moving away somewhat from the purely religious focus of the Spanish era.
It's right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the arrival of the Americans meant a fundamentally new cultural and political landscape. As our sources state, American officials, merchants, and tourists lorded it over the arts, which naturally influenced the themes and styles that became popular or commissioned.
So, less demand for saints and churches.
Less emphasis, perhaps. Instead of purely religious art or formal academic portraits for the Spanish elite and the church, there was a new demand for art that depicted the local landscape, ethnographic types, similar to tipos del país, but perhaps viewed through a more American lens, and idyllic scenes of daily Filipino life. Often, this was through an idealized or sometimes exoticized perspective for foreign consumption, for souvenirs or illustrations back home. This period saw a real rise in landscape and genre painting, reflecting a desire to capture the beauty and character of the Philippines for a new, often Western audience, but also for Filipinos constructing their own national identity within this new colonial context.
In painting, Fabian de la Rosa, active from 1869 to 1937, really stands out here. He's called the first painter of note for the 20th century.
A key transitional figure.
He was renowned for his realistic portraits, genre, and landscapes rendered in subdued colors. That seems like a clear, subtle departure from the often dramatic religious works or the brightly colored tipos del país of the Spanish era.
Yes, his palette was often more muted, more atmospheric. He captured a more tranquil, grounded vision of Filipino life, focusing on everyday scenes, planting rice, women weaving with an almost melancholic beauty, a quiet dignity.
And his legacy extends beyond painting, too. Right?
Absolutely. His significant legacy is also solidified by the fact that he was the first dean of UP Fine Art School, the University of the Philippine School of Fine Arts established under the American system. This marked a new institutional era for art education, emphasizing academic training, but now within an American educational framework.
Okay.
His works like Rice, El Kundiman, a genre scene depicting people listening to traditional Filipino music, and women are clear examples of his focus on themes related to Philippine daily life and culture, portrayed with that signature gentle realism. He was a bridge between the Spanish tradition and the emerging 20th century styles.
And then, of course, we have Fernando Amorsolo y Cueto.
Amorsolo, probably the most famous Filipino painter of all time.
Active from 1892 to 1972. He's arguably one of the most beloved and instantly recognizable Filipino painters. He's distinguished as the first, and maybe among the few, Filipino painters who truly capture the different striking colors and character of the country's magnificent sunlight.
That famous Amorsolo light.
Exactly, creating that distinct and widely imitated golden tone in his works. His signature was that luminous backlight effect, wasn't it? Making his figures glow as if bathed in the warm tropical Philippine sun. Especially late afternoon sun.
Yes, that golden hour light. It became his trademark. And his other trademark was his depiction of the ever-smiling Dalagang Bukid, the idealized portrayal of rural Filipino women.
Always happy, always healthy.
Always graceful, yes. Often shown in pastoral settings, maybe carrying baskets of fruit on their heads, planting or harvesting rice. This became synonymous with his style, a vision of serene, bountiful, peaceful rural life, an idyll.
What are some key works?
Well, works like mango picking, under the mango tree, a basket of mangoes, the Pele Maiden, a beautiful woman holding harvested rice stalks, and planting rice, often showing farmers working together under that brilliant sun. These all powerfully underscore his focus on idyllic rural scenes and the natural beauty of the Philippines. He defined an entire era's popular aesthetic, really, though later artists would react against it.
Right. Now, in sculpture during this American period, Guillermo Tolentino became a towering figure.
The counterpart to Amorsolo in many ways for sculpture.
Born in 1890, active until 1976. He was trained in the classical style in Rome,
Yes, highly academic training.
indicating that high level of academic rigor and mastery of traditional European techniques, which he then applied masterfully to Filipino themes and national narratives.
Precisely, he brought classicism to Filipino subjects.
His iconic works are just deeply ingrained in the Filipino consciousness and the public landscape, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. You have the oblation at the University of the Philippines campus, that famous naked male figure with arms outstretched towards the sky. It's not just a statue, it's a powerful symbol embodying academic freedom, selfless service to the nation, and sacrifice.
Instantly recognizable.
Then there's the massive Bonifacio Monument in Caloocan. It's this huge, dynamic, historical, and patriotic sculpture commemorating Andres Bonifacio and the Katipunan, the Philippine Revolution against Spain. It features multiple figures in dramatic, heroic poses, telling a story in the round.
A real narrative monument.
Definitely. And he also created more overtly politically charged sculptures, such as Filipinas in Bondage, which depicted a bound female figure representing the Philippines, reflecting the national sentiment and the yearning for true independence during the American colonial period. He captured that national spirit in bronze.
Okay, so that sets the scene leading into the next major phase, the modern period.
Yes, a time of real artistic upheaval and innovation.
This is where Filipino artists really started to define their own visual language, consciously questioning established norms, seeking to express a distinctly Filipino modernity that went beyond both the Spanish religious focus and the Amorsolo School's idyllic vision, especially after the trauma of World War II.
That's a key point. The war was a watershed moment. What's fascinating here, though, is that the seeds of Philippine modern art were actually planted way back in the 1890s with Miguel Zaragoza's pointillist works.
Zaragoza again, so he was experimenting early.
Yes, indicating an early engagement with European modern movements even before the American period fully took hold. Pointillism using those small dots of color. The fact that a Filipino artist was exploring the sophisticated techniques so early shows that Filipino art wasn't isolated. It was connected to global trends, albeit perhaps on a smaller scale initially.
Right.
Then, crucially, in the 1920s and 30s, a new generation of young painters were starting to question the Amorsolo school style that became the standard of painting. They started seeking something beyond that famous golden tone.
Why? What was wrong with it?
Well, they felt it was perhaps too idealized, too romanticized, maybe no longer reflecting the complex realities of a nation grappling with its identity under a new colonial power, dealing with social issues, industrialization. They felt the need for a different kind of realism, or even something entirely new, maybe more expressive or distorted, that better reflected the changing social landscape and the psychological mood of the times.
And Miguel Zaragoza himself, as you mentioned, played this crucial, multifaceted role. He wasn't just a painter, but also a writer and teacher.
Yes, highlighting his broad contribution to the burgeoning art scene. He was a student of the Manila Academy who was sent for further education in Madrid as a pensionado on a government scholarship. He brought back new influences and techniques like pointillism. He's considered an early Philippine master, known mainly for his refined portraits and also for the illustrations he published in La Ilustración Filipina, a prominent magazine. His works like Filipina, Juego de, referring to games, and Ma Siesta hint at his exploration of both genre scenes and portraiture, characterized by a soft realism. But his openness to new techniques like pointillism laid some groundwork for future modernists by subtly pushing the boundaries.
This period really solidified, though, with what's often called the triumvirate of modernism, right? A trio of artists who really broke the mold.
Absolutely. They radically redefined Philippine painting. First, you have Victorio C. Edes.
The father of Philippine modern art.
Exactly. From 1895 to 1985. After studying architecture and painting in America, he returned in the late 1920s and held a controversial exhibition advocating for art that embraced distortion, strong lines, darker palettes, and social commentary, a stark contrast to Amorsolo's sunny idealism. He basically threw down the gauntlet.
What were his paintings like?
His works, such as The Artist, The Sketch, and especially The Builders, depict figures, often laborers, with strong, heavy, almost cubist-like forms. They feel solid, weighty. They suggest a focus on the artist's role in society and themes of labor, construction, the human struggle, signaling a profound shift from earlier romantic or religious subjects to a more gritty, intellectual, and modernist approach.
Next in the triumvirate is Gallo B. Ocampo.
Gallo B. Ocampo from 1913 to 1985. He brought a truly groundbreaking innovation, especially to religious art, showing how traditional themes could be radically reinterpreted with a Filipino sensibility. He brilliantly Filipinized Western canonical iconography,
How do you do that?
most famously with his Brown Madonna series, painted around 1938. He depicted Mary and Jesus with brown skin, Filipino features, set sometimes in tropical landscapes. This wasn't just a change in skin color, it was a powerful theological and cultural statement about localizing a foreign faith, making it resonate more deeply with the Filipino identity and experience, challenging the Eurocentric norms of religious imagery.
That must have been controversial, too.
Oh, definitely. His works, including Deposition, showing a brown Christ, and of course the iconic The Brown Madonna, were pivotal in integrating a nationalist spirit into religious art, making the sacred feel more relatable and indigenous.
And the third member?
That would be the Angono-based painter, Carlos Bertong Francisco.
Bertong Francisco. Known for murals.
Yes, he was monumental, quite literally, with his grand-scale murals. He famously depicted Philippine history in his History of Manila mural for the Manila City Hall and other large historical canvases. He transformed historical events from pre-colonial myths to the revolution into vibrant, dynamic, flowing narratives.
What was his style like?
His artistic style is truly distinctive. It's characterized by these trademark fluid lines and brilliant colors. His compositions literally filled up the entire pictorial space, creating an immersive, almost cinematic experience. There's very little empty space. Everything is teeming with life and movement.
And he broke rules.
Crucially, yes. He notably defied the rules of linear perspective set by the local academy. He opted for a more flattened, stylized, and often multi-perspective approach that felt inherently Filipino, perhaps drawing inspiration from local folk art, comics, and traditional storytelling. This truly distinguished his approach. He rejected rigid Western academic conventions in favor of a more dynamic, rhythmic, and immersive visual narrative that celebrated Filipino history and culture.
So what does this all mean for Filipino art? This work by Edades, Ocampo, Botong. It means the deliberate push against the established, right? A collective artistic revolution.
Exactly. And the 13 Moderns were a pioneering group that really solidified this shift, creating a collective force for change and ushering in this new era of artistic freedom and experimentation in the post-war years.
Who were they? And why 13?
Well, the number is a bit contested sometimes, but they were essentially a group of artists who came together loosely affiliated around the late 1930s and more formally after the war. They were united by their reaction against the prevailing academic style. As the source says, they were reacting to the academic style of Luna and Hidalgo and to the sweet style of Amorsolo.
Okay, so a clear break.
A very clear generational and stylistic break. Their rejection wasn't just a stylistic preference, it was often a socio-political statement, too. They sought an art that mirrored the complex, often harsh realities of a nation asserting its identity, recovering from war, dealing with poverty and social change, rather than clinging to an idealized colonial-era pastoral dream.
Who were some key members? Besides the triumvirate.
The group included a diverse array of artists. Besides Edades, Ocampo, and Francisco, key members mentioned include Diosdado Lorenzo, Vicente S. Manansala, Hernando R. Ocampo, or H.R. Ocampo, Cesar T. Legaspi, Demetrio Diego. Also some figures associated with the University of Santo Tomas, UST, like faculty members Bonifacio Cristobal and architect Jose Pardo. Arsenio Capelli, who tragically died during the war, and even two STEAM assistants, Ricarte Pumanganan. This diversity in their backgrounds, some foreign-trained, some locally trained, architects, painters, speaks to a broad movement that truly sought to redefine what Philippine art could be, embracing experimentation and diverse perspectives.
Let's delve deeper into some of these key modern artists and their contributions, because their individual styles really demonstrate the breadth of this artistic revolution. Vicente Manansala, for instance.
Manansala, yes, from 1910 to 1981. He's considered as the major proponent of Cubism in the country.
So he brought Cubism to the Philippines?
He did, but crucially, he didn't just copy European Cubism, like Picasso or Braque. He adapted its principles, the geometric fragmentation, the multiple perspectives, to distinctly Filipino contexts and subjects. He created what's often called transparent Cubism.
Transparent Cubism.
Yeah, where the fragmented forms are layered and overlap, but you can still see through them, so the subject remains recognizable, not completely fractured. It creates this shimmering, faceted effect.
What did he paint in this style?
His works include the iconic jeepneys, that quintessential Filipino vehicle which he fragmented and reassembled, giving it this dynamic energy that perfectly captured the bustling, chaotic urban landscape. He also painted the powerful 14 Stations of the Cross in the UP Chapel using the style, and the deeply poignant Madonna of the Slums.
Madonna of the Slums.
Yes, combining traditional religious iconography with powerful social commentary, bringing a sacred figure, Mary and Child, into the stark realities of urban poverty surrounded by shanties. It's a very moving piece.
Then we have Hernando R. Ocampo, or H.R. Ocampo.
H.R. Ocampo, yes, from 1911 to 1978. He formed the triumvirate of neo-realists with Vicente Manansala and Cesar Legazpi.
Neo-realists. What does that mean here?
Well, when we say neo-realists in this context, we're talking about artists who, unlike earlier realists like Amor Solo, often use distorted or fragmented forms, symbolic colors, and sometimes abstracted shapes to express emotional and social realities, particularly grappling with the aftermath of World War II. Their work was often less about literal depiction and more about conveying the feeling or the essence of the subject.
Okay. So H.R. Ocampo's work reflected that.
Profoundly. His works were deeply nationalistic and reflected the harsh realities of the country after World War II, capturing the collective trauma, the struggle for survival, but also the sense of rebirth and rebuilding. What's particularly significant about H.R. Ocampo is that his works are probably the first purely non-representational art in the Philippines. He really pioneered abstraction.
Completely abstract, no recognizable figures.
Largely, yes, especially later in his career. His iconic piece, Genesis, which was woven into a huge tapestry for the cultural center of the Philippines, is a powerful example of this abstract style. It uses vibrant, interlocking, flame-like organic forms and bold, hot colors to evoke deep emotional and national narratives, creation, struggle, passion. He often said his abstractions were inspired by Filipino sunlight, flora, fauna, volcanoes, mythology, but rendered in a completely new, non-objective visual language.
Wow. And Cesar Legazpi, the third neo-realist.
Cesar Legazpi, yes, from 1917 to 1994. He was another core neo-realist often remembered for his depiction of the masses.
A working class.
Yes. He often used fragmented, overlapping, almost splintered forms and stark, sometimes somber or melancholic, colors to portray the working class, the urban poor, the marginalized. His style was forceful, muscular, giving a visual voice to those often unseen in society, expressing the struggles, the burdens, and the dignity of the common Filipino. His work, Gadgets, for example, captures this focus on human interaction with modern, industrial elements, often showing figures straining, toiling, almost becoming part of the machinery.
And we absolutely must talk about Anita Magsaysay.
Oh, yes, a very important female voice in this heavily male-dominated field.
Her works are immediately recognizable, aren't they? Characterized by those sharply outlined figures of bandana-wearing peasant women going about in their daily chores, running after chicken, planting, harvesting.
Always busy, always moving.
What makes her style truly distinctive and almost iconic are the unique physical characteristics of her subjects. The women are thin, with long necks, slanted eyes, and flat noses. These aren't just generic figures. They are spirited, energetic portrayals of Filipino women, often working together in groups.
There's a real sense of community and camaraderie in her work.
Yes, imbued with a sense of joy, vitality, and resilience, celebrating the strength of the rural Filipina. Her famous work, Mending the Nets, is a beautiful example. Her paintings convey this wonderful sense of movement, rhythm, and community. Moving on to other notable modern artists who push boundaries in different ways, this period seems incredibly diverse.
It really was, demonstrating the sheer range of the modern period. Fernando Zobel, for instance.
Zobel, right. Also known for the museum in Spain.
Yes, Zobel de Ayala, from 1924 to 1984. A significant figure, not just as an artist, but as a scholar, a collector, a patron of the arts. He was a winner of the AAP, Art Association of the Philippines competition early on. His work, Carroza, is mentioned here.
What's that?
It's described as an almost abstract depiction of a carriage carrying the Virgin Mary, a typical scene in Philippine fiestas. This is fascinating because it shows abstraction being applied to traditional, culturally significant themes. He's taking something very Filipino, the fiesta procession float, and interpreting it through a modern abstract lens, bridging that gap between old customs and new artistic expressions in a way that's both respectful and innovative. He later moved towards pure calligraphic abstraction in his Saitas and Siri Negra series.
And there's Jose Joya.
Jose Joya, hugely influential. He was the country's leading abstract expressionist.
Abex, like the Americans Pollock and de Kooning.
Yes, influenced by that movement, but developing his own distinct style. His works, such as Space Transfiguration and Abstraction 58, are these dynamic explorations of color, texture, form, and movement. He embraced spontaneity, gestural brushwork, impasto, thick application of paint, seeking to evoke raw emotion and universal experiences through non-representational forms. He often drew inspiration from the Philippine landscape, rice paddies, skies, hills, but interpreting it through a dynamic, energetic, abstract lens.
And Kikuk is another powerful voice from this era, right? Very different feel.
Very different. Known for his stark, sometimes disturbing, almost confrontational style. His works, like Crucified, a recurring theme for him, man and woman and fish, often possess this raw, expressionistic quality. They're depicted with sharp, angular lines, intense, sometimes clashing colors, and a palpable sense of anguish, struggle, or alienation. These titles hint at themes of suffering, human relationships, the harshness of existence, nature red in tooth and claw, often with a profound intensity that leaves a lasting, sometimes unsettling impression on the viewer. His work reflected the violence and turmoil he saw in society.
A darker vision. What about Mauro Malang Santos? He started as a cartoonist.
Yes, Malang. Initially gained fame as a celebrated cartoonist for the Manila Chronicle with his strip Cosme the Cop, retired. He brought that distinctly bright, cheerful, and accessible style to his fine art practice, which really endeared him to the public.
So his paintings are cheerful.
Generally, yes. His bright disposition has always come out in the vivid colors of his paintings, creating an immediate sense of joy and optimism. What's truly captivating are his abstract representations of nipa huts, trees, flowers, churches, carabeos, men, and of course women, all exploring this tropical kaleidoscope of colors.
So abstract but still recognizable subjects.
Yes. Semi-abstract, often figurative, these are images and colors that undeniably remind us of the homeland, making his work incredibly resonant and recognizable, celebrating the simple beauty of everyday Philippine life through a vibrant, celebratory palette. His piece Watermelon is mentioned as an example. You can imagine the bright reds and greens.
And Arturo Luz, he seems very different again. Minimalist.
Arturo Luz, yes, a national artist for visual arts, known for a very different aesthetic, one of refined minimalism and elegant abstraction. His best masterpieces are minimalist geometric abstracts.
What does that mean?
Think clean lines, structured forms, often simplified shapes based on figures or objects, and usually quite muted controlled palettes. His work is praised for evoking modernist virtues of competence, order, and elegance. It's further described as evoking universal reality and mirrors an aspiration for acme of true Asian modernity. He wasn't about raw emotion. He was about finding harmony and perfection through simplicity and precision.
What are some examples?
Works like Lavandera Awit, Washerwoman Song, Bagong Taon, New Year, and Trio exemplify his style. Cyclists, musicians, performers, cityscapes reduced to their essential lines and forms, presenting a sophisticated, intellectual approach to abstraction that seeks universal harmony.
Finally, in sculpture for the modern period, we have Napoleon Abueva.
Abueva, yes. Born in 1930, so spanning modern and contemporary periods, but hugely influential in modernism. He's widely hailed as a father of Philippine modern sculpture.
Why that title?
Because he truly transformed the medium in the Philippines. He moved decisively away from the classical realism of Tolentino to produce highly stylized, simplified, and eventually abstract works. He was explicitly under the influence of Moore and Brancusi, directly linking his work to towering international modernist sculptors like Britain's Henry Moore with his organic forms, and Romania's Constantine Brancusi with his simplified elegance.
What are some of his famous works?
His Kaganapan, Completeness or Fulfillment from 1953 is very famous. It beautifully depicts a woman in the height of her pregnancy in smooth, rounded, abstracted hardwood form. It signifies new life and completeness, a powerful abstract rendering of a universal human experience. Other works like The Machine, The Crucifix, often very abstract, and Mother and Child, another recurring theme, showcase his incredible versatility and mastery in transforming materials like wood, metal, adobe, and stone into profound, often poignant, modern statements that resonated deeply. He really opened up sculpture to new possibilities.
And now we arrive at the contemporary period. This is roughly from the late 20th century, maybe the 70s or 80s, to the present.
Generally, yes, though the lines can be blurry.
This is where the landscape of Philippine art truly explodes, doesn't it? With incredibly diverse voices, media, perspectives.
Absolutely. It becomes much harder to neatly categorize.
This is where art continues to challenge, reflect, and shape modern Filipino identity, responding to globalization, technology, complex social dynamics, environmental concerns, personal narratives, often in increasingly innovative and sometimes unexpected ways. It feels like a period of almost boundless experimentation.
That's a good way to put it. In this vibrant period, Abdumari Imam stands out for his incredible contribution, particularly in popularizing indigenous Muslim art forms from the South.
Bringing Mindanao art to the national stage.
Exactly. Through his works, the indigenous ukol, that leaf and vine pattern we mentioned, Sarimonok, the mythical bird, and Naga, mythical serpent motifs, have been popularized and instilled in the consciousness of the Filipino nation and other peoples as original Filipino creations. He specifically focused on Muslim art, bringing a crucial and often underrepresented cultural perspective to the forefront of national art. He didn't just copy, he reinterpreted these powerful symbols through modern mediums like sculpture and painting, often in vibrant colors. Think of his dynamic, colorful, contemporary Sarimonok sculptures. His work celebrated the rich, distinct artistic heritage of Mindanao.
Then there's Roberto Chabet. He sounds like a key figure institutionally.
Hugely influential, yes. Not just as an artist, but as a teacher, a curator, an institution builder, and a bit of a provocateur. He was the founding museum director at CCP, Cultural Center of the Philippines, back in 1967, a major national cultural institution. And he was a pioneer of conceptual art in the country.
Conceptual art, what does that mean?
It generally means art, where the idea or concept behind the work is more important than the traditional aesthetic qualities or the finished object itself. Chabet really pushed Filipino art into these new, often challenging, conceptual territories. He emphasized ideas, processes, questioning the very nature of art. His works like Pero or Psychopathology of Life often used everyday or found objects, ephemeral installations, things that don't last, text, instructions. They challenged viewers to think critically beyond traditional painting or sculpture, often sparking intellectual engagement and debate rather than just aesthetic appreciation. He mentored generations of conceptual artists.
Eduardo Castrillo is another monumental figure, literally.
Yes, known specifically for his large-scale bronze sheet monuments. He worked primarily with metal, bending, cutting, and welding sheets of bronze or brass to create these massive dynamic forms.
In his style, it's called deconstructivist.
That's how it's described here, yes. In sculpture, that might mean he breaks down traditional forms, heroic poses, or smooth surfaces, and reassembles them in dynamic, often jagged, fragmented, or seemingly unstable ways. His sculptures often seem to burst with energy, tension, and movement.
What are some examples?
His works are often prominent public sculptures. The haunting La Pieta at Loyola Memorial Park in Marikina, the heroic spirit of Pinaglaban and Monument in San Juan, the towering Bonifacio Shrine in Mahan Garden, Manila. These are not merely decorative statues. They are deeply symbolic public art pieces, often commemorating historical events or national values with immense visual force and dramatic flair.
And then we have Benedicto Cabrera, known as Ben Cab.
Ben Cab, yes, a national artist and one of the most celebrated and recognizable contemporary Filipino painters, both locally and internationally.
He's known for pioneering the neo-figurative style. What's that?
Neo-figurative means bringing back the human figure into art, often after periods dominated by abstraction, but doing so in new and compelling ways. Ben Cab's figures are often imbued with a strong sense of emotional depth, psychological insight, and sometimes social commentary. He masterfully combines figurative drawing with more abstract or textured backgrounds.
And his most famous subject is Sabel.
Yes, his Sabel series is perhaps his most iconic recurring subject. Based on a real homeless scavenger he observed in the 1960s, Sabel became this enduring symbol in his work, exploring themes of destitution, alienation, but also dignity, mystery, and human resilience through the evocative image of this woman wrapped in scraps of plastic or fabric. His works like Tres, Three Women, or Isadora in Motion further showcase his mastery of human form, movement, and emotional depth, often drawing inspiration from historical photographs, dance, and personal narratives.
And finally, Ramon Orlina. He works with glass.
Yes, Ramon Orlina brings a truly unique specialization to contemporary sculpture, working almost exclusively with glass. He is both a sculptor and an architect who creates sculptural form in glass as a medium, showcasing a truly distinctive approach to his craft.
How does he work with glass?
He doesn't blow glass. He carves and shapes solid blocks of optical glass, grinding and polishing the facets to create these prismatic, often abstract forms that beautifully refract and reflect light. His works are often monumental despite the fragile medium and possess this ethereal yet solid quality.
Has he done major commissions?
Yes, he has received significant commissions in prominent public and religious spaces, demonstrating the versatility and impact of his chosen medium. Examples include the magnificent tabernacle altar at the Edsa Shrine in Manila, the Radiant Resurrection Cross also at the Edsa Shrine, and the striking quadricentennial sculpture in UST, University of Santo Tomas. These all showcase his remarkable ability to blend modern aesthetics and technical mastery with profound spiritual significance, creating works that inspire awe through light and form.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've taken through Philippine art history. From those ancient Taban caves burial jars right up to Arlena's glass sculptures at the Edsa Shrine.
It really covers a vast span of time and expression.
It's so clear that art isn't just decoration, is it? It's this living, breathing record of a people's experience, their beliefs, their struggles, their joys, their triumphs, all beautifully and sometimes painfully expressed across centuries.
Indeed. And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, this deep dive really reveals how Filipino art continuously adapts. It draws from profound indigenous roots, it absorbs and critically transforms colonial influences, and it consistently demonstrates this fierce, unyielding drive for self-expression and identity. Each period really built upon the last, didn't it? Reflecting changing realities, evolving beliefs, shifting patrons, and those ever-present aspirations for identity, community, and nationhood.
You've really seen the evolution of themes, too, from the deeply spiritual and functional art of the pre-colonial era
Right, connected to survival and belief.
to the didactic religious art of the Spanish period, then the nationalistic and socio-political expressions of the modern period,
Responding to colonialism and nation building.
and then finally to the incredibly diverse, often very personal or conceptual expressions found in contemporary art, which continue to challenge and expand our ideas of what art can even be.
Exactly. The scope just keeps broadening.
And what we hope you, the listener, take away from this isn't just a list of names and artworks, though hopefully some spark your interest, but really an appreciation for the sheer resilience and the profound adaptability of Filipino artists across all these different eras and often under challenging foreign dominations.
That resilience is key.
Despite changing patrons, shifting political landscapes, devastating wars, and dramatic cultural shifts, Filipino artists consistently found ways to tell their stories, to preserve aspects of their heritage, and to forge new identities through their work.
They always found a way to create, to express.
This is why you should care about this history, why it matters. Because it offers this unique, vibrant, and deeply human lens through which to understand Philippine identity, its complex past, and its incredibly dynamic and vibrant present. The art holds the stories.
It really does.
So the next time you encounter a piece of Philippine art, whether it's a traditional weave in a market, a santo in an old church, a mural on a city wall, or a modern abstract in a gallery, maybe take a moment to consider this. What stories is it trying to tell? About its time, about its creators, about the enduring spirit of its culture, even if those stories aren't immediately obvious on the surface.
That leads to a final thought, perhaps, an important question for you to ponder. How do the art forms, the styles, the themes, and the movements we've discussed today continue to echo in contemporary Filipino culture and identity? How do they influence maybe new generations of artists, architects, designers, filmmakers, musicians, often in unexpected and exciting ways, maybe even in things you encounter every day? Where do you see these legacies living on?